everybody. I'm Jeff Antoniuk. Welcome to Digging Deeper Jazz. Well, today I want to talk about 2-5-1s, and specifically 3 different types of 2-5-1s that we want to get sorted out. So, of course, I'm talking to the adult amateur musicians out there, the semi-pros, and folks who are trying to get some good information here. And I hear this a lot from people that come to me for lessons or study with me at jazzwire.net. Is we're playing 2-5s, but we're not being specific enough with the 2 chord. So 3 different kinds of 2-5s. By the way, all 3 types of these 2-5s occur in the song, the Cole Porter song, I Love You. So we're going to be using that as an example today. And before we jump into that, I want to let you know the Digging Deeper Jazz podcast. Yes, we're going to be converting all of the past, this episode and the past 179 of them into podcasts. So if you enjoy listening to podcasts, if that's something that's easier for you, you're in that habit, you have friends that listen to podcasts, let them know. Search it out wherever you find your podcast. Within the next week or so, it's going to be listed on all of the services. Digging Deeper Jazz podcast. So please subscribe where you get your podcast, whether it's Android, Apple, however you do it. And you'll be able to get this information in some different ways. So be looking for that. Okay, so a 2-5-1. I think a lot of us know, as you can see on the sheet here, a great example, G minor 7, C dominant 7, F major 7. A 2-5-1 in this case in the key of F. It's a great classic progression. And I say classic because the 2 chord really is minor. It's supposed to be minor. We can talk about why that is later. 2 chord is minor, 5 chord is dominant. It needs to be dominant. Another discussion. And the 1 chord. 1 chord can be major or minor, but in this case, it's major. Cool. So this is something we all need to be comfortable with. So I've written out actually some really good usable licks for you here. So at the very least, you're going to leave with some pretty smoking 2-5-1 licks. So let me play this for you, and you can get a sound of melodically what's going on in this 2-5. And we're going to talk about the important thing that's in here, essentially the voice leading. Check it out. Okay, so I played that great melody, and I say it's a great melody because it really has the sound of the harmony inside it. I played it once, played it a second time, then I played those half notes and whole notes, that voice leading line. That is what makes it all work. So the important thing with this first 2-5-1, the 2 chord is minor. That's what we're used to. So we want to hear the flat third there. So very traditionally, the flat third, we keep that note around, and it becomes the flat 7 in the second measure. And you can see I saved it to the very, very last note, the 8th note of those 8 eighth notes in the second measure, and then it resolves so perfectly down to the 3rd of the 1 chord. There's many ways to voice lead through that line, but that's the classic one I want you to hear. And the important thing is getting the minor 3rd on the minor chord. So, okay, you've got a great lick there. So let's move on to the second one. That first one is one that you've seen a million times. A lot of you will be in pretty good shape with that. So here's the next one. As you can see, the difference between item number 2 and item number 1, well, I've made the 3rd of that chord a major 3rd now, right? It's a dominant 2 chord, so we really want to make sure we get that major 3rd there. That's the note we need to be aiming for. So let me play this for you, and then let me play the voice leading for you. right. So the sound of that 2-5 with the dominant 2, it's brighter. It's a pretty hip sound. And so we really want to play that up. So when you see a 2-5-1 with the dominant 2, the third is the note you got to be aiming for. And now, as you can see with the voice leading, we had that major third. It voice leads down a half step to the flat 7, and it voice leads down a half step to the third. So I've done a bunch of videos on voice leading and taught workshops on it. If you have any questions, you can definitely go check those out. Or of course, join us at Jazzwire, where we talk about this stuff daily, weekly, for sure. So that sound of the major third and then how it resolves. You can see that B natural, I made sure to move it nicely to the B flat in the second measure over the C7. I begin and I end that measure with the B flat. Do you have to do it that way? Absolutely not. But it really made the sound very strong. And the difference between the first one and the second, you could rewind the video and listen to the first 2-5 with the minor 2, then listen to this one with the dominant 2. They have a really different flavor. Okay, so now in the song I Love You by Cole Porter, he does this very cool thing. Cole Porter does this a lot in his compositions, where he'll do a minor 2-5. In other words, a 2-5 progression that's taking our ear to a minor 1 chord. We know we're in the minor key. And at the last second, he doesn't go to a minor chord, he goes to a major chord. So this is a slick one. It's a minor 2-5 that goes to major, is the way we talk about it. And again, today I'm focusing on 2 chords. Everybody focuses on the 5 chord. I wanted to focus on the 2 chord because this is where the differentiation happens here. So this 2 chord, it's not minor like the first one. It's not dominant like the second one. It's half diminished. When we see a half diminished 2 chord, that means that we're heading to minor, pretty much without exception. That's a rule. Write it down. When you see a half diminished 2 chord, we're going to minor. Now, of course, Cole Porter breaks that rule for us. Okay, so now what is the important note? So I've told you what is the important note on minor, what's the important note on the dominant. So what's the important note here? It actually shifts. It's now the 5th or the flat 5. So in this instance, G half diminished, I actually want you to hone in on the D flat in there. So the D flat. And that D flat actually holds across the measure in a voice leading kind of way, becomes the flat 9. So if you've never experimented with flat 9s, this is the opportunity. The 5th or the flat 5 becomes the flat 9, and then that resolves down to the 5th. Okay, so this is a lot of theory and a lot of talking. Let's hear what this thing sounds like. I'll play it twice, I'll play the voice leading line, and you'll get a sense of this. Okay, so these 3 different 2-5s have really, really different sounds. And again, we're focusing on what we do with the 2 chord, how we set it up. So with this one, that D flat, the flat 5, and that's the big different note in a half diminished chord, how that flat 5 is there. And then over the dominant chord, I sort of kept the sound of that flat 9. There's a zillion things we could do there, but I decided to keep the flat 9. And you notice again, we're getting a nice little voice leading lesson here. At the end of the second measure, going into that F major measure, I had that note resolve down. So 3 different kinds of 2-5. So when you recognize a 2-5 progression, don't just play the same stuff you usually play. Is it a minor 2? Is it a dominant 2? Is it a half diminished 2? Now, we all have to start somewhere. So, of course, you can be in survival mode and just play all 2-5s the same. That sort of kind of works. At the level you want to be at, okay, it's time to dig a little deeper. Hence the name of the videos, right? So, yeah, we dig a little deeper, and now we can fine tune. And I'm telling you exactly which note to aim for. And by the way, not only which note do you aim for, but what do you do with it in the next measure? That's really key. So I tell you what, I'm just going to finish off by playing through Cole Porter's tune, I Love You, and we get to hear each of these 2/5. So follow along on the music. I'll put the lead sheet up on the screen and see if you can just sort of get a sense of how each of these 2/5s is a little different from each other. You're going to hear, various versions of each of these three. And this is kind of an ear training thing, right? Like getting used to the idea that a 2/5 isn't just a 2/5. They go to different places and they start in different ways. All right. Hope you enjoyed this and the Digging Deeper Jazz podcast. Please tell people about it. Please subscribe yourself. And I hope this is yet another way for us to keep connecting. Enjoy.